I really, really wanted to cram in as much useful information, tips, you name it, into this from everything that I've learned. So without further ado, I'm going to start telling you about my journey and how I came to this world of entrepreneurship. And yeah, just a little bit more background on me. I am obsessed with all things 3D printing. I have, my room is actually a little makerspace. You could see it back there, but here's a better picture of it. And I love boba and chocolate, so much so that I actually recently got a chocolate 3D printer. Yes, it prints with chocolate. I'm going to be starting it up tomorrow on my last day before the long weekend, and I'm super, super excited for it. Yeah, and then I recently started a 3D printing PPE organization called Makers for COVID-19. We have over 330 members by now, and we have donated roughly 40,000 units of PPE, which means personal protective equipment, to hundreds of hospitals all across the United States, and we're even going international now. Most of the PPE that we've donated is face shields and mask clips. So we've been trying to really be active throughout the COVID situation and make sure we're there for the initial cases, and also now for Texas and Florida, which are having a hard time. So that's been what's been taking up most of my time now. And you could see these are some of the face shields that we've been printing. I've been personally printing. And those are the doctors that receive some of our face shields. Also, to what Chloe mentioned earlier, prior to the 3D printing PPE organization, I started a STEM clothing line, but more specifically, it's a 3D printed clothing line with basically it's streetwear with 3D printed designs on it, and it's called Wear Alpha. And I've been doing a lot of kind of my passion projects through that business. Lastly, this kind of ties together the two bullet points. I am passionate about social good, I love tech, and I love entrepreneurship. And bringing those three together has kind of been my world and been everything that I do. And at the kind of crux of it is just solving problems and using tech and just an entrepreneurial spirit and ambition and drive to do those things. And currently I am a software developer intern at Amazon with AFE. AFE stands for Amazon Future Engineer, which is a great program. I'm going to plug it right here because it's a scholarship program and also a guaranteed internship. So they pay $40,000 for your college tuition. If you are currently a high school junior, because I think they already took applications this year for high school seniors, definitely apply for it next year. This is huge and can definitely help you a lot. Oh, and here's one of the Wear Alpha hoodies that I made for myself, and you can find it on our website. So I figured that I would start off by telling you guys a little bit about my journey and just walking through it, and also giving some general takeaways that I've got from everything that I've experienced, followed by some business tips that I've learned. I hope that you can really see that there are different paths and that it's all about exploring yourself and finding your interests, especially when you are aspiring to be a teen entrepreneur. So, funny enough, my start happened to be in NSBE, which stands for the National Society of Black Engineers. And full disclaimer, I am not Black, as you can tell. I am very white, but I live in New York City. And so the high school that I went to was very open and very welcoming to having me be part of their community. And that's something that I've always been grateful for, since they really kind of allowed me to start my career in technology. And they are the reason why I got the high-level technological intro that I did. And also the major reason why I got the professional skills that I needed to realize that what I really want to do in life is entrepreneurship. And you can see the beautiful woman right here, Miss O'Neill. She was my teacher, my first year teacher. And she taught me CAD, which is basically a 3D modeling software. And she is actually the reason that I fell in love with 3D printing. So I have to say I owe a lot of my success to Nesby and to Miss O'Neill. So I'm always gonna be grateful for her, and just wanted to share that out there because Nesby will always be my home. So then right after that, I decided that, you know, I got my intro to tech. I love tech and I want to do more in it. So I decided to take a deeper dive into coding. And I did that through Girls Who Code, through their summer immersion program here in New York City. And after doing the summer immersion program, I realized that coding is just not for me. And you might ask, why are you doing a coding internship, Karina? I'll get to that. But I realized that coding is just not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So then I decided to move into prototyping and learning about the technology there. I figured, why not try to learn a little bit about 3D printing, since it always sounded cool to me and Miss O'Neill kind of planted that seed in me. So why not give it a try? Why not learn other prototyping tools and machinery like laser cutters? So I went ahead and did an internship at NYU's Makerspace, where I was basically a TA there. And alongside that, I figured, you know, I have some coding knowledge. AI sounds cool. Why not do a research internship to really get that deep dive into coding and research in general? Very quickly, though, I learned that research is not for me. I am not a researcher, and I further realized that coding is not for me. But what I did learn from all of this is that I really liked prototyping, and I wanted to do it more. So from that point on, I decided, why not go into the mechanical engineering major at my school? And my school is set up so that we have for the remaining 2 years of our school, of our 4 years in high school. So basically we take classes that are core to the major. And I basically took a lot of classes in C# and robotics and Arduino. And I did that for 2 years, and I didn't really like someone telling me what I could do and what I could build. I didn't feel like I was doing anything meaningful, and I didn't feel like I was solving any problem. I was doing my assignments, and I didn't like that at all. So I decided that what I needed was to solve it. And around that time came the opportunity to start a CS program, a computer science program. From that point on, I decided that I wanted to move into actually trying to create the CS program for these students. The opportunity came up through a friend, and I was like, why not? This is social good, has something to do with tech, sounds perfect. Very quickly, I realized that these students and the school did not have computers. How are you going to have a CS class without computers? There I was thinking, why don't I just solve the problem by using my mechanical engineering skills and by combining them with my prototyping skills? So there I was creating a computer, which you can see right here, thanks to a laser cutter, a 3D printer, and a Raspberry Pi, and some other cool tools. So very quickly, we were able to get this program going. And these students were actually able to code using these computers that I made by myself. So it was something really cool for me to be able to see that I could create such a difference, and I could really do social good through technology. And so I really like this, and I like that I could also bring in prototyping and mechanical engineering into this. So I made an opportunity for myself to teach robotics to an elementary school. You could see the cool little board that we did, the bulletin board, and my students right here. We were presenting at a First Lego conference, so that was really amazing to see. And so I did that, and I realized that I really loved what I was doing. And I got to do a lot of the things that I was passionate about, which also included exploring my interests further through hackathons and doing just cool things like creating this blanket out of t-shirts that I got from hackathons. So then after that, I got into Cornell, and surprisingly enough, not tech at all. I got into their business school, but I figured that at this point, I want to pursue social entrepreneurship through tech. That's what I came to the conclusion with. I figured this is where I need to be, and I have a good enough background in tech. Why don't I go into business and try to better grasp the entrepreneurship world of things? So it was also at this time that, my high school career was wrapping up, that I realized that I wanted a fresh start, and I really wanted to pursue my interest. And to me, that meant starting Alpha, which was the first version that Chloe brought up. And a few months in, you could see this is my my dorm, and I got my first 3D printer. I have been meaning to get a 3D printer for the longest time, because to me, 3D printing was just something so beautiful. I should have mentioned this earlier, but I love the word maker, and you saw it in the first picture on the first slide with the title. But basically, to me, the reason why I love the word maker so much is because it represents so many things, not just tech. It represents entrepreneurs, it represents change makers, it represents activists, it represents anyone that is making something or making a difference. And I loved that 3D printing really fit well into my idea of making, and my idea of harnessing the power of being able to really build and create anything. I think with 3D printers specifically, what I found so beautiful about them was that you could really build something out of nothing, and you could build anything. And this really symbolized engineering to me, and symbolized entrepreneurship, and really the world of making. So that's why I always kind of had a strong feeling towards 3D printing, and was really happy when I got my first 3D printer. And fast forward a little bit to the future, I realized that what I was doing with Alpha was not exactly what I wanted to be doing. There were so many other things that I wanted to be doing, like supporting other women-led organizations, or doing more 3D printer education or activism, or even advocacy, I would call it. Or even just doing something that was completely not what I was doing at the moment. I wanted to make a difference. And so it was at that moment that I realized I needed to change Alpha. And there came Alpha 2.0, where I launched 3D printed apparel. And yes, the first Alpha didn't have 3D printed apparel. We were something completely different. And to me, realizing that I wanted to make that difference and I wanted to make that switch was a huge learning experience. And it's one of the biggest things that I've learned in my life to this date. And one of the things I'll be sharing more with you guys on. But I decided that the new version of Alpha needed to have 3D printed apparel. And I found that with 3D printed apparel, I just loved the idea of being able to showcase your engineer and your maker through an engineered hoodie. Like, to me, that was just the epitome of STEM fashion. And that's kind of how I moved with that and the direction I was going in. I also started Founding Females, which is a group that I get to work through that subset of Alpha with Girl Genius. And basically, it's just a program dedicated to supporting female-led organizers and organizations. And it's something that I'm truly passionate about in terms of just creating a whole different way that we look at social good within businesses and giving back to the community. And in addition to that, one really, really huge thing that I needed to do was create a component to Alpha that was 3D printing education advocacy. I realized that Alpha to me was really just a reflection of myself, and it needed to be the complete reflection of myself. So I needed to share my love for 3D printing, and I needed to share the inspiration that 3D printing gave to me to others so that they can get started too and they can fall in love with engineering and making just like I did. So all of that happened, and to add to all of it, I also became an If Then ambassador, which is a great program for women in STEM who just want to showcase to the world and really inspire more young women to go into the STEM field just by sheer representation. You guys should all look into the program, by the way, if you can, and try to apply and get involved somehow, because they are truly a phenomenal organization that's making really big moves. But anyway, so on to now, I am at my Amazon internship doing lots of coding. And the way that this kind of all happened was I decided Amazon is a great company in terms of the kind of success that they've achieved. I can't say the same for their all of their values or all of their ethics, but I really liked the culture there, and I really liked the company's kind of overall big picture strategies and mission. So that's kind of why I agreed to accept my offer to be a software developer. But even in this internship, I quickly realized that this is not necessarily for me. Coding is great, but I want to be doing something in a more managerial role. And more importantly, I want to be doing something at Amazon that's focused on social good. So that's something that I'm constantly kind of realizing throughout my internship and working towards, so that in the future I could get an offer to work in their social good department, or really just focus on what my passion is. And it was also that I realized, it's also a few months ago that I realized that I really love advocating for 3D printing. And I really love debunking some of the myths that come with the whole realm of 3D printing. And just to give you one little tidbit from that is, too many people think that 3D printers are super expensive. And I'll just see like a gauge from you guys. How much do you think on average a 3D printer would cost? If you could write that down in the comments. I want to see what you guys think. Oh. 300, 200, 500, 400, 150, 300. Cool. So you guys are doing much better than a lot of other people, but my 3D printer, I have one 3D printer. I have 5 in total, but one of my 3D printers is $150 with shipping, requires no assembly, and has a 1-year warranty. And it's that type of information that not a lot of people know and not enough teachers know about. So advocating is something that I've been really big on. And to answer Angela's question, I'm going to note right here. I can also answer any questions after this. I definitely want to make sure we have time for a Q&A. But yeah, and most importantly, too many people think that you need technical knowledge for 3D printing. And I can tell you right now, you do not need to know how to design a 3D model. You do not need any technical knowledge. If you can press a button, and if you have access to internet, and you can download a software, that is all you need. So to me, I've been really huge on just bringing this information out there, and something that I've been doing prior to COVID-19. But once COVID-19 hit, of course, I couldn't really focus on advocating as much and traveling and doing workshops. So I had all my 3D printers kind of sitting idly, not doing anything. And that's when the kind of everyone was going crazy in the 3D printing community about 3D printed PPE, particularly face shields and mask clips. And the mask clips you can see I'm holding right here. Face shields are pretty clear. I guess you guys know what that is, but basically they protect medical workers from any fluids or even just any particles that might be coming from the patient that they're taking care of or from the people around them. And it was actually done, it was actually surveyed, I think, by Get Us PPE, the biggest organization for supplying PPE, that face shields were the PPE that every medical facility had the least of. So it was something that I got to be part of, and something I was grateful to be part of. And of course, along with the face shields, we made mask clips, which basically attach to your mask, to the ear loops on your mask, so that they would attach in the back instead of hang on to your ears. And for nurses who would wear layers upon layers of masks, this helped them get rid of their bloody sores on their ears, and also make sure that they didn't get any more. And I was lucky enough to gather a group of roughly 330 makers from all across the United States, and even in a few places around the world. And we've been 3D printing this PPE and donating it to states all over the US, and have even started working with maker spaces and makers in Ghana and Mexico, among a few other countries. So that's been a really great experience, and I've just been super grateful for it. Here. And then now on to some key takeaways that I wanted to share with all of you guys. So one really, really big note, and I think this is something I hopefully made clear through the past few slides. It's very important for you to explore yourself, and for you to find what your passion is, and to do that by trial and error, seeing what you like, seeing what you don't like, seeing what works for you, and just trying different things. From every single experience that I had, I tried to learn something new. I tried to realize and get closer towards what my actual passion was. And this goes back to that other point. Learn lessons from every single thing you do. And I don't just mean learn about yourself. I also, more importantly with this bullet, I mean learn about different things, and different things about how you work, whether that be prioritization, leadership, communication, and anything in between. And to give you an even clearer picture, what I really mean by this is, have you guys ever heard like sayings that older people tell you about, like, get comfortable being uncomfortable, or like these like catchy phrases that you're like, what do you even mean by that? Like, what does that mean? Literally me all the time. From the start that I went to panels or whatever, or conferences, I was like, yeah, no pain, no gain, right? I was like, what are you even talking about? What does this mean? How do I internalize this and understand this? Well, this is where this bullet point comes in. You need to keep those ideas in the back of your mind and constantly try to understand what they mean for you. Because, things like get comfortable being uncomfortable mean different things for different people. For me, it means putting myself on the spot and, feeling out when I feel comfortable and when I don't feel comfortable. When I feel really uncomfortable, like my gut intuition says, no, don't do it. And when my gut intuition is like, yeah, I want to do it, but I'm shy. When stuff like that happens, that's when you should push yourself and you should be in that uncomfortable position. That's what I realized that meant for me. But everyone is going to realize what these lessons mean for themselves. So it's very important that you keep it in the back of your mind, and you just constantly keep it there to just look at and think, I think I know what this finally means. And I think I know what this means because I've experienced this situation, and this is what I learned from the situation. And the part that relates to all three of these, you can't do these two bullet points without this one, is reflection. You need to reflect a lot. You need to reflect on the things that you're doing on a daily basis. You need to reflect on your big picture goals, and you need to budget. You need to figure out how you work and realize what works best for you. And based on that, decide whether you need to select time out of your calendar to reflect a lot, or if it's something that you just do naturally along with the things that you do. I'm lucky enough that it just happens naturally for me and I don't have to do it without thinking. But for some, that's not the case. So if you need to take time to just sit and think, this is how my day went, this is what I need to do better next time, and this is what I've been planning for this week, but clearly it didn't work out, so this is what I need to do different for next week. That is very, very crucial to your growth. And the fourth, you really need to be passionate about what you do. And if you explore yourself and let yourself explore and not box yourself in with like your day-to-day tasks, you can find what you're passionate about. And you could actually pursue your passions and try different things and really just be good at what it is that you are doing. Because I can tell you right now, if you're doing something that you're not passionate about, there's no way that you'll be good at it compared to someone who is truly passionate. Passion makes a really big difference in someone's work. And lastly, there's a few more, but learn from the people around you. And I say this because this was really huge in my development. This relates back to the idea of mentorship, but what I mean by this is surround yourself by people with traits that you admire and absorb those traits. Learn those skills from those people for yourself. Try to surround yourself with people that you can learn from. Learn communication from this person. Learn leadership from that person. Learn good listening skills from that person. Try to absorb their good skills into yourself and let yourself grow in doing so. And for me, this has been really huge because I've used this as sort of like milestones. I'll be like, okay, I learned something amazing from this person. Great. Now I can move on to the next level, which for me might mean something like communication, and just kind of constantly growing and using the people around you as kind of like reachable milestones. Because too many times I'll see people have mentors that are like Michelle Obama, which there's nothing bad about that. Michelle Obama is amazing. She's awesome. But when you have somebody on that's that far away from you, it's hard to reach it, right? So you want to have you want to have people that are your role models that are attainable so that you can reach them. And then you can have somebody else that's higher, and you can work your way up to the top until you're Michelle Obama. Not that anyone can ever be Michelle Obama, but you can eventually get to her level. That's kind of like my goal, but nobody can ever be Michelle Obama, but cool. And the next part is everyone is in a different stage of life. So remember that. People are going to be in different parts of their life. You want to learn and absorb the best from them, but you don't want to compare yourself. People get to different stages because of different reasons. People get to different stages quicker than others because of privileges. People get to different stages because of lots of different things. I've met people that are stages above me, and they're my grade level. And that can happen for whatever reason, but keep that in mind. Everyone is at a different stage in life, and you need to respect the stage that you're at, and you need to focus on that. And going back to stages, I'm currently at a stage in life in which I need to find a balance between adventure and work. I need to find a balance between quality and quantity. I need to figure this out for myself, because I've personally come to a point where I've burnt out so many times that I can't keep this up, and I need to start finding a work-life balance, because I'm the type of person that likes to do everything and anything I possibly can. But I've come to a point where that's just not feasible. I have a relationship that I'm in that I want to take care of and want to continue. I have myself that I want to take care of. I have work, and I have passions that I want to pursue. And more importantly, I want to be happy, which is something that everyone deserves. And for me, what I found to be happy, especially during COVID, was finding adventure. And for me, finding adventure meant going out to explore, going out to discover, even if it's as simple as, going onto the garage, the roof of the garage for my movie theater that's around my house, and just eating chips with my best friend. It's little things that sometimes can really make a difference and let you really just leave the world of work and just escape into almost like a Netflix movie. So for any of you guys out there that are struggling during COVID, I've been there. It's tough, but try to find that balance between just adding a little bit of spice, a little bit of adventure to your life, and mixing it with work. And now onto the business tips. I really hope that the takeaways that I gave you guys were helpful. My goal with sharing those takeaways are to just really show you guys that entrepreneurship is not just about the business part. It's really also about you. It's about understanding who you are. It's about understanding what you want to do in life. And it's very important because when you're a teen and trying to be an entrepreneur, it's really hard because you need to figure out what you are about. You need to figure out what your passions are, and you need to figure it out earlier than most other people. Because if you want to, really kind of lead or really do something, be like part of this world, you want to start early, and it's tough. So you need to be able to understand yourself, and you need to make the extra effort and the conscious effort to go out there and do that. So the first part I'm going to give you on business tips is solve someone's problems, not your own. This is something that I see so much in the STEM community. I see tons of STEM accounts follow me on my Instagram, and not to bash any STEM accounts because I'm not about that life at all. I think it's very important to solve someone's problems and not your own. I have too many people that come to me that say, oh, I have this super cool idea about creating this organization. And the first thing I tell them is, have you done your research? Is there an organization that is already out there that exists like that? Because it's easier to solve your own problem than it is to go out there, hear other people's opinions, and then prove that your opinion, what you thought the problem was, is not right. That is the hardest thing to do. And it's funny enough because this is one of Amazon's core principles. You want to prove yourself wrong. You want to find the most opposite answer to yours. And you want to explore all the answers, because that's when you're going to get to the root of an actual problem that you could solve and that you could provide actual value to the person on the other side. And that's the mistake that I made with Alpha. I did just that. I focused on the problem that I wanted to solve, and I blindly, without asking anyone, went ahead and did that. Lost a ton of money, spent so much energy, went through a lot of heartbreak, and ended up realizing that this was a huge mistake. And this is also the problem. Once I did that, I realized that I should never do this again. And it's what I realized and learned and didn't make again with Makers for COVID-19. With that, I strictly sought out to talk to people. The first thing I did was say, hey, what can I do to help you? And it was from that Makers for COVID-19 was born and was super successful up to this point. So remember that. Try to find opinions that counter your own, and don't necessarily try to find the easy way out, which is solving your own problem. Next one. An organization or nonprofit is just as much of a business. It wasn't until a year ago that I realized that, a nonprofit functions just like a business like Amazon. They are all the same. They have the same functionalities and they do the same amount of work. The only difference is the financials. Remember that a nonprofit or an organization is not any less of a business than an actual business. So go ahead, start it if that's what you want to do. This is a big one. understand your risk and commitment. You want to be very clear with yourself, and this goes back to stages. You want to be very clear with yourself what stage you are at. How much are you willing to risk, and how much are you willing to commit? More importantly, how much are you willing to risk financially? How much money are you willing to put into this financially of your own savings? And how much are you willing to commit of your time? Is this going to be something that you are going to put all of your eggs in one basket? Or is this more of like a sideline project? For me personally, when I started Alpha, I made a huge commitment. I decided, you know what? And I made a huge risk too. I decided I'm going to put all of my money into Alpha, and I'm going to put all of my eggs in one basket. I'm going to focus solely on Alpha, which, if you know me, that's nothing like me, because all of high school, I was juggling 2 internships, this, that. I was doing so many things. My eggs were in 10 different baskets. It was a lot. And I was spreading my risk, which is something that most of us do normally. And with Alpha, I wanted to make that switch. I wanted to put all of my risk in one place, and I wanted to put all of my commitment in one place. And unfortunately, with Alpha, it did backfire. But I realized that now I'm at the stage where I'm willing to risk even more. Now I'm at the point in life where I want to create a startup that's financially backed by investors. And that's an even bigger risk. It's one thing when you put your own money on the line. It's a whole other thing when you put other people's money on the line. So understand your risk and understand your commitment and where you fall into play with that, because that's going to make a big difference on how much you can work on your startup, your business, your organization, and it's going to determine a lot of how you approach it. Okay, this is also really huge. Don't wait for anything to get started. I have had people come to me and say, Karina, I'm looking for team members, but I can't find a team member. Do you have any suggestions? And my first thing is, you're gathering up a team. You don't have a minimum viable product. You don't have anything to concretely and visually show what your idea is. Your idea is not fully developed. And it's great to have a team to really think through your idea, but you want to just go ahead and jump in. You want to start creating what it is that you had in mind. Because at the end of the day, whatever it is that you start off with is not going to be what you end up with. You are going to iterate no matter what. You're going to be improving, and you're going to be building up on your idea. So you might as well start as soon as you can so that you can get as much iteration and progress out there as possible. And I'll say this, if you're not iterating and you're not improving, then you are doing something wrong. You are not reaching out to get other people's perspectives. You're not reaching out to get other people's feedback. Because if you are getting public feedback, if you are getting to use terms, customers' feedback, and you're not changing after that, then you are not getting your customers' feedback right. You have to be cognizant of that, and you have to be aware that you're always going to be changing. And there's no need for you to wait for anything to get started, because you might as well just start now and experience that change and experience that growth that comes with talking to people and getting their opinions. Know your arena. And this goes back to the first one. A lot of people jump in and say, I have this great idea, let me just do it. I was one of those people too. And that's fantastic. But I'll say this now. I have roughly 200 Instagram STEM accounts that follow me. 200. That's a lot. You're telling me that they are all unique. They offer something special to the table, that they are completely different and unique from each other. Statistically, I just can't believe it. So with that, I want to point out that you need to know your arena really well, and you need to know what makes you unique. You need to know what makes you stand out from your competition, and you need to know how much you stand out from your competition, because there is a point where you don't stand out enough, and there's a point where you stand out enough. And in too many cases, I'll see people wanting to go ahead and start something. And in my mind, I just think, well, why don't you just join an already existing group? Why don't you contribute your ideas to an already existing group? And I realize that for some people, it's as simple as getting the experience of actually creating their own project. And that's totally valid. And I respect that. And you should go ahead and do that. Even if you understand, or even if you don't understand that what you are creating is not necessarily as valuable as you would like, as one would like it to be, to really differentiate from what's out there. So keep that in mind. It's different for different people, but I will say this: know your arena, know who's out there who's doing stuff like you, and know what makes you different from those people or from those groups. And also, to add on to that really quickly, you need to know as much as you can on them. You need to really do your research. It's not enough to just scratch the surface, because believe me, that's the type of person that I used to be. I would like to just scratch the surface because I hated proving myself wrong. Oh gosh, I hated proving myself wrong. There was nothing worse than that. To me, proving myself wrong was so painful. It was worse than like a heartbreak. And so I avoided it at all costs. But really, that was one of my biggest downfalls, and something that I discourage you guys from doing. Don't compete. Collaborate instead. There's really, in so many cases, no need for people to start so many new organizations unless they're doing it for experience. There's so many opportunities to collaborate, and that's really what we should be doing. And on an even bigger note, we need to be a more collaborative society. Women, talking about women and just talking about everyone in general, there are tons of people that don't want to collaborate and want to be individualistic. I think there's a statistic, but the United States is one of the most individualistic countries, whereas in Europe, the countries there are more collaborative. Or even in South America, I think the countries there are more collaborative. But we want to collaborate, and we want to not compete. We also want to look at our competition as our friend. When your competition is your friend, the game changes. Both of you are growing instead of trying to watch each other lose. And there's nothing better than having your competition be your friend, because then ultimately the cause that you're fighting for, if you're in the social good world, is greatly improving. But also, you guys are helping each other grow. And there's nothing wrong about more than one organization, more than one person growing and reaching success. This is a lesson that I didn't learn until much later on, but there's tons of room for multiple people to be successful. There's tons of rooms for multiple businesses to be successful. And there's room for you to be successful among your friends and among your competitors. What's important is finding what makes you unique and really being great at that. Next up, build up your relationships. I have been really big and keen on this since I first started in my engineering and entrepreneurship journey. I've always tried to attend panels. I've always tried to meet people. I've always tried to talk to people. And it was that really helped me build up my relationships so early. And thanks to those relationships, they've been able to see me grow, really. I have certain people that I met when I was in my sophomore year of high school. And I talk to them now, and one of them, she works at Accenture. She was like, hey, you want an internship? Do you need an internship? It was as simple as that. So keep in touch with your connections. It doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be you messaging them on LinkedIn and, scheduling time to catch up. It doesn't have to be that intense. It could just be as simple as finding your mentor on LinkedIn and commenting under their post. Or it could be something as simple as finding them on Instagram and then just, liking their posts here and there, showing them that you're around and showing them that you remember them and showing them that you care. It doesn't have to be anything intense. Initially, when people told me like build up your relationships, I was like, oh, that means that every 3 months I have to schedule time in my calendar to check in on every single one of my connections and make sure they're doing well. That's too intense. You don't have time for that. And they don't have time for that either, trust me. So make sure you're being reasonable with yourself and being realistic. Build up your relationships, but do it in small, easy ways that people will remember and really cherish and appreciate. Make mistakes and learn. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but you really, really want to make mistakes. You really want to learn from them, because it's okay to change your mind and it's okay to make a mistake. And if you're not, you're doing something wrong, because people make mistakes and that's really normal. I made a mistake with alpha, and that's what ended up in me creating alpha 2.0, which became so much better. You really have to learn from your mistakes and grow from that. And I think the most important part of that is just really getting accustomed to failure, because, you know, I think we kind of have like a bad standard. At least I did personally when I was growing up. I always kind of saw Mark Zuckerberg and I saw all these other cool people, and I was like, whoa, they like are billionaires on their first try. Like, I could do that. Trust me, no, you can't. They are 1 in a million cases. I'm not saying that you completely can't. You might be able to, and please prove me wrong. I would be very happy for you. But it's very rare, and it's very unlikely. And it also comes down to luck. So realize that you're going to fail and you're going to make mistakes, but take them with pride and appreciate them, because those mistakes are essentially going to be your biggest life lessons. And with that, that's it for my presentation. Of course, stay in touch. My email is right there. My Instagram is right there. My Twitter is right there. I wish I could use my regular name for my Twitter, but that wasn't available. So that's the closest thing I could find. But if you guys have any questions, I am more than happy to take them now. If you could describe your journey in one word, what would it be? From Serena. Cool. Geez. I think that my journey in one word would be challenging. I've been through a lot. I have had to teach myself a lot of things. If you would have seen me as a freshman in high school, you would have not realized that you would not even fathom that I came to be the person that I am. And it was all through self-reflection that I was able to learn so much and grow so much. So a point to that. Cool. Anna, I was wondering what your biggest struggle so far has been and how you grew from that. To be honest, I feel like I faced so many struggles, whether they be, and I'm not trying to say like, you know, I've faced lots of hardship. There are tons of people that have faced probably more hardship than I have, but my hardships have mostly been around just trying to grow and be better than my parents. And what I mean by that, and I'm not trying to sound conceited or anything, but I see lots of things that I could be better at, and I see lots of things that kind of my parents' immigrant values have been imparted onto me that I now have to kind of fix and improve upon, because, you know, they kind of function in like this kind of works a little bit like Russia, but also not like Russia. We're also Ukrainian, but I say Russian because a lot of people don't really know the difference between Russia and Ukraine, but whatever. So I always have to kind of work to improve that and work to kind of rework how my mind works there and just make myself better. Cool. What else? Could I share my contact information again? Sure. Do you guys prefer email? I'm just going to include everything. It's kpopovich@45@gmail.com. And my IG is, I don't really use Twitter that much, so don't bother. Just Instagram DM me if you guys need anything, or my email's right there. Cool. Sorry, I skipped one from Saloni. Hopefully I'm saying your name right. Tips for finding mentors. I think that is a hard one. I know that I've been able to find mentors through lots of different programs. I will actually list one right here. Built by Girls is a great program. They have a mentorship feature to them that you should look into. But one way that I would recommend you finding a mentor is actually going on your LinkedIn and finding someone whose career path aligns more or less with what you want to do in life, and reaching out to them and just messaging them and saying, hey, I would love to learn more from you. Can I borrow 30 minutes of your time? I want to ask you about XYZ. Please be super clear. I know I personally get lots of messages where people are like, hey, I want to learn more about your work. And it's kind of like, can you please be specific? Like, I'm personally at the stage in life where I want to have time for myself, and time that I spend or out delegate to doing things like this is taking away time from me spending time with my boyfriend, or me spending time with my friends or my family even. So that's very important to me, to be able to prioritize and just know what things are going on. And I'm sure it's the case for many other professionals out there. Cool. Any good clubs or anything to join/do over the summer? That's a hard one. I know that there are, I think Google was doing a CSSI, a Google Summer Coding Institute, or CSCI maybe. Check that out, really good. I don't know if they're still accepting applications, but that's awesome. I know if you go to the Built by Girls website, they should have a list of resources out there. But I would just recommend doing that. I can't remember anything off the top of my mind at the moment though. Cool. From Lily, do you have a model name for the 3D printer? I'm seeing them for 300. If you go on Monoprice, it's the Mini V2, and I think it's refurbished. But believe me, that doesn't take away from the quality. Mine is perfect. Tips on how to reflect effectively, Stephanie. Well, I really think this is different for every single person. For me, that's mostly just been just really kind of stepping back and being like, wow, I didn't get anything done today because of my meetings. And that's pretty accurate for what my day looked like today. So how can I work on this better? I think just being really, really conscious about what you were doing, how you were doing it, and what you're okay with and what you're not, and just thinking of ways for you to improve is very important for you to self-reflect and do it effectively. But again, I think it's different for everyone, so don't quote me on that. I think it's something that you should try to keep in the back of your mind at all times, and try to just kind of be like, oh, what was my day like today? What do I want to do better? What do I want to fix? And that's probably what I want. That's probably my best suggestion to you. Okay, I can't pronounce this name, so I'm not going to. I feel bad. What do you suggest girls that are interested in business and computer science explore during high school? This is a tough one because computer science and business and the mixture of the two is only now getting popularity, and is still uncharted territory for many schools, for many colleges, for many everything. So I really recommend that you pursue both of your interests together if you can. And if you can't, then pursue them separately. I think what you really should do is look at startups that are either run by other teenagers or are run by other groups, and just reach out and say, hey, can I be part of what you're doing? Can I be an intern for you? I know for a fact, like Cornell Tech has a accelerator for MBA students. So, sorry guys, I need to drink tea. I've been talking for a lot. So I ended up reaching out to one of them And I was like, hey, heard you have this opportunity. Can I join? And I did. And it was a fully remote internship and it was great. So that's something that I recommend you do. And you guys might not have the ties to a college yet, but even if you were to say, look at Cornell Tech's website and see if they have, any accelerators on their page, and just, reaching out to them. Or if, you find, say you really like NYU, see what accelerators they have going on and which companies are there and see if you could work with them. Try to really kind of bridge your interests, either separately or together. I'm going to say this right now. In high school, you're not going to have much of an opportunity for programs that are out there where the two are bridged. So you're most likely going to have to bridge them for yourself, which is what I ended up doing with teaching robotics to elementary school students. I had to create the opportunity for myself. I was there on a trip at that elementary school, and I happened to stop by the activities coordinator, and I was like, hey, I have my resume on me. I want to do something with tech. Is there a spot for me? And she said, I was just thinking about adding a tech program to our school. You came at the perfect time. And there was my opportunity. You always kind of have to have your eyes open and really just kind of be extra, kind of like extra on it in terms of finding opportunities for you and thinking where you could find that opportunity for yourself. How would we get started if we're interested in entrepreneurship but don't know where exactly to start off with? Okay, for that, I think my biggest point of advice, if you're interested in entrepreneurship, start really with anything. You don't need to start with something specific. I would, again, going to the point of looking up some companies from different schools and different colleges, find a company that's doing something that's of interest to you. And if you like what they're doing, go ahead and shoot them a message. Find their founder on LinkedIn if you can't find their email, and message them on there. And slowly try to find your way into entrepreneurship. And once you do that through a company that you find interested in, you'll very quickly realize what exactly is your interest when it comes to entrepreneurship. Cool. Shifa, how do you stay productive and focus on your passion projects even after you're not passionate after a while? So I think for me, as soon as I lose passion, I know that this is not for me. Next. I realized that coding, not for me. Next. I realized that what I really am passionate about is social good and tech and entrepreneurship. And then I was like, okay, this is my passion. My passion is hanging around in there. It's not really like going anywhere. And, keep in mind, you're going to have days where you don't have much passion. You don't feel as excited about what you were doing, and you just don't feel as riled up as you used to. That's normal. What's not great is when you have that prolonged feeling, and that's when you know you're losing passion for something. And in cases where you're losing passion for something, go ahead and drop it. Move on to a different thing. Try something else. Try something different. There's no reason for you to continue doing it, because you realizing you're no longer passionate about it is like a sign for you it's basically a lesson. It's you telling yourself that this is not for me. So why waste your time continuing to do it when you could be spending that time learning other lessons and growing faster, right? So you want to fail quickly, as they say. So make sure that you are doing that even when you realize that you lose passion. But keep in mind, the good days come with the bad. How do you create a cooperative environment between your team? This question boggled me for all 4 years of high school. I'm telling you, this was hard for me. One of my mentors once said, creating a cooperative and strong team comes mostly from inspiration. And either it's inspiration for the cause or it's inspiration by the leader. And I think for me, I didn't have a team when it came to Alpha, but I do have a team when it comes to Makers for COVID-19. And with Makers for COVID-19, what really united us was our combined passion and our kind of zeal to work towards a goal. And that's what really kind of created that cooperative environment between our team. And I think the hardest part for me was facilitating that cooperative environment and letting people feel connected to the mission, letting people feel connected to the problem, and letting them feel that they're part of the solution. And I think that's been really key and something that anyone should really take away when they're trying to create a good environment for their team, is really making their teammates feel like they're being a huge part of the difference. And as far as how you make that happen, that's a long story that I can share more about. But for the sake of time, I'll go on to Anna's question. How have you been able to manage your businesses in college and work life? Oh, I have not. I will say this now. I have burnt out probably 3 times already, and I'm only 19. So I clearly have not been doing a great job at it. So I have to say, this has been one of my biggest flaws. I'm the type of person who has tons of ambitions. Like, this is a list of all the things that I want to do. This is a list of like 4 companies, 4 side hustles that I all want to do. So I have dealt with this problem for a while. And what I realize now, and this is all about kind of the stage concept, I'm at a stage in life where it's great that I have all these things that I want to do, but I have realized for myself, and it took me to individually realize this. I've had lots of people tell this to me, but it didn't come through until I actually was put in this situation and I had to really understand what that meant. But there's so much I can do. Already at the pace that I'm going at, having an 8-hour-long day internship every day for Amazon, trying to manage Makers for COVID-19, trying to do talks like this, also trying to launch a separate other thing with 3D printing. It's a lot. I wake up at 7, I go to sleep at 12, and that's my schedule. And I try to manage to fit in my boyfriend in there. I try to fit in playing with my dog in there. And I try to fit in some time with my family in there, right? So that's the stage that I've come at. I've realized that I don't want to pay the price any longer of sacrificing my family, of sacrificing my relationships for work, especially when I'm doing so much work that it no longer makes me happy. And I think that's very important, because you will realize very quickly that you will burn out, and you don't want to burn out, because I'm telling you, burning out is one of the worst things that can, other than, the obvious things, burning out is one of the worst things that can happen, because it's just like a concussion. You burn out once, you're more likely to burn out again. And you burn out twice, you're more likely to burn out a third time. So you really want to walk carefully and make sure you're maintaining a good balance. Cool. I can talk more on that topic, but again, that's a long-winded one. I was wondering what your method is in finding out what are problems that the world is facing and how might you want to fix them. I think the big one for that is just being aware of the information that's around you. You want to know what's going on. You want to just sometimes spend time thinking about things. One thing that I realized was a huge problem, and I realized this before Makers for COVID-19, but this was something that I was talking to a friend, and she kind of just brought it up. The 3D printing space makes a ton of waste. There's no way to recycle failed 3D prints. They just end up getting thrown in the trash. And that's a huge issue. And I think having these conversations, talking about different things, being aware of what's going on, and just trying to be information hungry is what is going to make you aware of these events and make you aware of these issues, and will make it a lot easier for you to come up with a problem. Because what you really need to know is come up with a solution, sorry. What you really need to know is the problem. Once you know the problem, the solution will come a lot easier. I think the way I'm going to interpret this question is, what are the most important aspects of running an organization that has a lot of team members? Makers for COVID-19 has roughly 22 student team organizers and over 300 makers. So we're a pretty big team. And I think the biggest part to all of this is, again, the way that I look at it, my customers are my makers. I have two customers. I have medical workers that are my customers, and I also have my makers. And I need to treat them and value them equally, because if I don't have makers, there's no way I can help medical workers. And if I don't have medical workers, there's no way that my makers will stay much longer with me. So that is really important to me. And being aware of that, and just making sure that I can meet their needs while also taking into account my organizers' needs, and being really realistic with, my organizers are taking on too much of a workload. This is not reasonable for them. Because again, if I don't have organizers, I'm not going to be able to do a good enough job for my medical workers or my makers. And if I'm not doing a good enough job for them, then there's no way that I'm going to be able to sustain my organization much longer. So being cognizant of that, again, a lot more I can say on that, but gonna try and cut it short. I have so many passions, but I have trouble choosing one. Girl, me and you both. It's tough, but my biggest point of advice would, and I'm terrible at deciding this, but it came down to the point where my boyfriend just sat me down and was like, Karina, you just can't do this. You can't do this anymore. You're crying every single day. Like, you can't keep up with it. And he's right. I couldn't. And so it was at that point that I had to sit down and I had to look at my schedule, and I had to write down all of my ideas, everything that I wanted to do. And I had to tell myself, and I had to think about each one of them and think, which one do I need to do? Which one do I absolutely need to do? If I don't do this, I will be very mad at myself. I will feel like I'm missing out. Which one is so important, and which one do I feel like I need to get done now? I'm also the type of person that is like, oh my gosh, there's so many things to do, and lifespans are not long enough for me to do everything I want to do. So I need to do as much as I can at all times. And yes, that is true, but you can't be doing work your whole life. You need to be living, you need to be enjoying life, and you need to be happy. And yes, happiness does come from work partially, but there's a different type of happiness that comes from work that you won't get from different things. And the happiness that you get from not working and doing other things is really, really valuable and precious. So don't ever think that it isn't. But going back to recommending or deciding, I really think you need to just sit down and, write down all of your ideas and give it some time. You shouldn't be making a decision in the next hour. You shouldn't be making a decision in the next day. You should sit there. You should think about it. You should have your list hang up and remind you every day. And you should think and get closer towards you think will work for you. Because after I've written this list, I realized, that thing that I really, really wanted to do, yeah, I guess it's like not that important to me. I guess the thing that I really, really want to do, the one that ranked number 1 on my priorities list, is still what I really wanted to do. And the thing that I put as third is just not as important. And I started caring less about it. So give yourself more time to just think about it and to just really kind of scope your way out. If I have a mentor who helps me, for example, looking at my resume, how can I return the favor? What would you recommend I do to help someone who's far off in their career? So I hear a lot of adults, and I don't consider myself an adult, although I should, but a lot of people will be like, oh, don't ask me for help if you can't give something in return. I'm personally really against that. I think that you, as a high school student, as an early student in college, there's not much you can give. There's really not much you can give. you are still learning a lot. You have a lot to learn from this person. And other than your labor, there's not much you can give. And offering your labor is not necessarily something that you can do or should do, just because it might be asking more of your mentor than it is giving to them. Because when you ask to work for something, you ask for them to coach you. You ask for them to lead you. And, you know, that's not always easy. So I think keep in mind that you don't always need to be returning a favor. I know any and every mentor that I've had, I've never looked at it as, oh, I need to return the favor. I need to pay it back to them. I've always looked at it as, oh, thank you so much for building up a relationship with me. I care about you. It's nice to see that you care about me. I can't wait. I'm happy to watch both of us grow and to see where our careers take us. And I think once you get older, that's when they can help you. And that's when you can help them. I think once you are in your 20s or in your 30s, there will be opportunities that present themselves where you can offer the favor back. And remember, just because someone helped you when you were 12 doesn't mean that you can't help them back when you're 40, right? It's all, I guess, look at favors as debts, right? Somebody helped you, you're in debt to them. You can pay your debt back when you're 40, right? It's like a lifetime thing. Don't look at it as something that you have to pay back immediately, because I personally trust that you can help anyone. You just have to wait until you can actually help them in a meaningful way for them. How did you reach out to makers to join your team? Ooh, good one. So for that, I actually went out on Reddit and so first off, I reached out to a few people that I knew were 3D printing PPE. And it was really early on in the whole 3D printing movement. And I was like, hey, what are issues that you are encountering? How can I help? And the first thing that people told me was, I can't find elastic bands, because everyone bought elastic bands and they were sold out. Nobody could find elastic bands. So I was like, okay, let me find elastic bands. And I found elastic bands. And then as soon as I did that, I created a Slack and I was like, hey, I found, and I posted on Reddit, I was like, I found elastic bands. If anyone needs help, I wanted to create a group where people can gather together and share resources. And we could, kind of pool resources together and help each other. And very quickly, a lot of people were interested because I was actually solving their problem. I was helping them with something that they needed. And overnight, we had 120 people join our Slack. Definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. And if there's ever anything I can do to you or offer advice or, anything, please let me know. I am happy to help. I'm more than happy to support and just give back to you guys. Well, I think that is it for me. Okay, I'm gonna sign off. It was a pleasure to meet all of you guys, and I hope you guys have a wonderful 4th of July weekend. Of course, stay in touch. I love hearing progress updates from you guys and building those relationships up. So keep me up to date.